the money. The rest of the table is surprised to see such a speculative holding. We're gonna go off to 5 cards, and it's anyone's flop at this point. Well, it's not my flop. A 10-9-3 board gives me a few more ideas on the turn, and we get a gin card which comes the 8 of diamonds, giving me a gutter and also a backdoor flush draw. Matt calls for a black card, and a black card, he gets the 4 of clubs.
The 4 of clubs, the out we forgot to mention.
Welcome back.
Bang, we river him with a pair, a $6,900 pot getting shipped over my way. And Matt, you gotta be more specific when you call for a black card, because that 4 sent you to the rails. I put the $50 straddle out there and looked down at Ace King offsuit, a premium. Hopefully we get a bunch of action in front of us so I can spring the trap and make it more. Mr. J limps in and Trick Time raises it up to $420. I wonder if that's a little bit of code there. He makes it $420 to go, and the Dock of Felt flat calls from the big blind. Well, it's time to put more money in the middle. $420 plus a caller. I decided to go $1,750. It's a pretty large 3-bet. Action's back over to Trick with a mystery hand, and he puts in the call. Dock of Felt now goes for a weird line. After calling the 420, he decides to rip his entire stack in for $5,650, and the action's back over to me. I think with a hand as strong as Ace King offsuit, we only have one move. I don't want to go 3 ways to the flop. I decide to rip it all in, and if Trick Time finds the call with his 6-4 of diamonds, well, he's going to be even more of a legend than he already is. Turns out that Trick Time does in fact like money just a little bit. He finds the fold, and we're off to a run out versus Dock of Felt, who has pocket jacks. How does he have jacks here? Well, it's a good old-fashioned flip, Ace King versus jacks, and we decide to go twice in this $13,000 pot. I don't know that he has jacks in real time because we keep our cards face down, but for your guys' entertainment, you know I'm in a flip. We're off to 2 runouts. The first board comes pretty great for me, King 9-3. The turn and river are bricks for Dock of Felt. We're gonna take down at least $6,500 in this first half of the pot. The second board is more of the same, King 7-5. I'm now hoping he doesn't have aces. That would be pretty much the only hand that has me scooped on both. But if you remember correctly, his line didn't make too much sense, so after the board runs out clean, we're taking down a $13K pot. And of course, Dock of Felt is not immune to getting a bang sticker afterwards as well. Hand number 34, I'm in the big blind with jacks. Those tricky jacks. How am I going to play it this time? Well, there's a raise to 130 from Vegas Fiat, a call from Joker, and a 3-bet from Outlaw on the button. All this action means I'm coming in for a 4-bet, and I decide to make it $1,550 to go, which clears the field, and it just shows you there's no good way to play pocket jacks. Well, it looks like the table gave me a lot of respect with that 4-bet in the last hand, so let's mix it up here with my second favorite hand, 7-deuce offsuit. I come in for a 4-bet once again, and funny enough, it's against Outlaw, who 3-bet in the last hand, and he folded that time. Well, let's see what happens now. Vegas Fiat has a pretty strong hand with 10s, but he decides that it's a battle between myself and Outlaw. He mucks the best hand, Outlaw folds, and the table is disgusted because they all owe me $100. Let's go. As you can see, we are doing quite well tonight, up $12,805. We are in first place, and I have no plans on slowing down. Hand number 51, there's a raise to 200. Mr. J calls, and I call as well, and bang, we flop the king high flush on a queen 7-5 board. Joker bets out small, and I put in the call. The turn comes the queen of diamonds. I decide to lead for reasons I can't tell you in this exact moment, but it looks like it was not the right play because the Joker folds his cards. Now I know it's my poker vlog, but I had to include hand number 52 in there. Well, this hand got off the rails. We find ourselves in a 3-way all-in. Trick Time had a decision there to call it off with Jack 9 offsuit for around $12,000, and he decides to put on a show for all the viewers, puts in the call, and we're going 3 ways to a run-out Ace King, 8-7 of clubs, and Jack 9 offsuit. Well, at the end of the day, Ace King does in fact hold. Trick Time can't even look at the board, covering his eyes with his hands. It's a massive pot, and Viet puts on a show for the viewers, something I've never seen before in my entire life.
Let's go! Damn, I love champions.
Let me know down in the comments what's the craziest thing you've seen at a poker table, because I think this one takes the cake for me. Remember when he had like 45k in his stack? Well, he finds himself in a weird spot here, queen 9 of diamonds, and tries to bluff into Trick Time, who snaps him off with pocket aces. The stack is already decimated, but then he runs into Outlaw, who has pocket kings versus his king 10. Top pair is no good for Viet. He ends up getting stacked in that hand, and I think the only reasonable thing to do in a situation like this is give you guys a flashback on how he was feeling earlier on in the night.
Pay for my bills!
Matt raises it up to 150 with king queen off. Felt calls, I call, and Joker does as well. We're going 4 ways to the flop, which comes great for me. Ace jack 3 with 2 diamonds, top pair, nut flush draw, and Matt continues to bet. How can life get any better? I decide just to put in the call. A quick tip for you guys is sometimes when you have a pair plus a flush draw, it's better to play your hand as just the pair. If I just raise here, I'm gonna be called by ace queen, ace king, whereas I could just put in the call and spike the 7 of diamonds on the turn. Bang, we turn the nuts. Now I have all possibilities on the table. When Matt bets out for 300, I could call or I could raise. I decide because I'm in position, I'm gonna call, see the 5 of hearts river, and now go for the raise. Matt makes it 550, and I decide to go large, and he snap folds king queen offsuit. It's too bad he didn't have a little bit of a better hand. Might have called me, might have not, but we're taking down hand number 62. Hand number 73 is pretty crazy as well. I'll go over this one quickly. I look down at 6-5 of diamonds from the hijack and raise it up to 300. We're gonna get a 3-bet from Vegas Viet, who has ace-4 of diamonds, and Trick Time puts in the call. I call as well, and all 6 diamonds are in our hand. There can't possibly be any on the flop, while a king 10-6 board comes with 1 diamond. Action checks over to Viet, who goes for a $700 bet. Luckily, Trick Time just calls. I decide to call as well. Look at that, I have 72% chance to win this pot. And look at that turn, the 7 of diamonds peels off. Now we all pick up a flush draw. This could get a little tricky for me, no pun intended, with Trick Time in the mix. The action checks over to Viet, who decides to continue to bet with his nut flush draw for $2,500. Trick now goes for the raise to 10.140, a very specific number, and now my hands are tied. Even though you guys and myself can see that I have the best hand with a pair of 6s, there's just no way I can call off here with my 6-high diamond draw and a pair. So I fold, Vegas Viet folds as well, and Trick Time gets it through. Unfortunate, but I had to throw that one in there to show you guys how aggressive the table was playing. Well, it's my turn to be aggressive. I look down at king queen of diamonds and raise it up to $300. We're gonna pick up a bunch of callers and go off to a flop, which comes queen 7 deuce rainbow. In between 2 opponents, I start with a check, which gets a bet out of Vegas Viet, who fires out for $415. After Mr. J calls, I decide to go for the check raise. The logic is I want to bloat the pot now versus worse hands. And I also want to go heads up to the turn, and I'm not really trying to go 3 ways. So I make it $1,100 to go, and we're only going to go heads up with Mr. J, the desired outcome, and the turn gives me more ammunition, the king of spades. He checks it over to me, and I think it's a bit of overkill now having 2 pair. If he has a hand like queen 10, queen jack, or maybe a hand like 8-10 or some weird backdoor draw, Mr. J could have anything here. I think checking behind allows him to bluff the river, so that's what I do, and the 8 of spades peels off. He does not in fact bluff the river, but I decide to go for a small sizing of $1,700. In this exact spot, he finds the fold, but I wouldn't put it past him in the future to call with a 3rd or 4th pair. Next hand, I raise it up with ace king offsuit from the +1 to $150. We get 3-bet by Joker. Mr. J calls, Trick Time calls, and the action's back over to me. I think a 4-bet is in order. So far tonight, I've done it twice with jacks and 7 deuce. It's time to do it with ace high now. Ace king offsuit comes in for $1,900. We're gonna get rid of the initial 3-better, which was Joker, and usually when that happens, you're gonna take down the pot. I wouldn't complain about that, $1,500 coming my way in profit, but look at that, Trick Time out of the small blind finds the call. We're going heads up in position to a flop. You guys are going to play along with me in this one. A mystery hand from Trick Time. He goes for the check. An ace king with a king of diamonds on this low of a board. I decide to start with a check. When you're thinking about betting or checking on the flop, you got to think about who has more of the nuts. Trick Time definitely has more of the 5-6 being the straights. I think pocket 8s I'll have a good amount of, and of course 7s you guys know is my favorite hand, but he's going to have more of the 7-8 suited. So I decide to check behind, and the turn comes the 3 of hearts. He checks it over to me for a second time, and in case he has a hand like king queen, or maybe he has some sort of diamond draw, I want to get value versus non-pairs. Maybe I can also start to tell the story of a overpair and get him to fold a hand like pocket sixes, or pocket nines, or pocket fives, something like that. So I decided to bet out for $2,000, and immediately I regret it. He tanks and then goes for the check raise, and he goes large for 85.20. Let's expose his cards now so you can see what I'm up against. 9-10 of diamonds. Of course, the dealer rewards him on the flop by giving him a straight flush draw. He gets sneaky with 2 checks, the flop and the turn, gets the most out of me with a check raise. He's going to take down hand number 76. We do run this out though to see if my ace high would have been good, and of course trick time just hits the river, so even if I find a call or somehow shove on the turn thinking I'm good with my ace high, he would have got rewarded and take the pot down. The Nick game's back on, and I raise the button with ace 10 offsuit, pick up a few customers and flop myself top pair, which seems pretty good. Action checks over to me and I go for a $300 bet. 2 players call with some weird hands. The turn comes the 4 of clubs, actions on me again, and I decide to get tricky and check behind. When the river comes the queen of diamonds, I'm hoping someone caught up, but Mr. J decides to bluff into me with his 9-6 offsuit for busted straight draw, I guess, and fires out for $1,200. I'm going to pick off this bluff here and put in the call. We're taking down hand number 89.